Welcome to our Digital Skills Certificate webinar. Again, NYU Tandon in partnership with Pathstream. We'll go through some introductions. We'll talk about the partnership between NYU Tandon and Pathstream and kind of what we bring to the partnership, get into some certificate overviews, a platform demo, and we will absolutely leave time for Q&A. So make sure as we're chatting today, delivering information about the various certificate programs that you're entering your questions. So let's jump into introductions. I want to hand it over to Dr. Hayes.
Hey everybody, I am Dr. Lindsay Hayes. I work at NYU Tandon School of Engineering. I help manage all of our programs that we have in partnership with Pathstream. Digital skills suite that we have going on is one of my favorite to manage because the curriculum is just really strong. We have some great professors that we've lined up for each of our programs, and Pathstream as our partner has done a great job helping us just offer some of these digital skills to people at all levels, which is one of the greatest things about the curriculum. So our office is specifically focused in non-credit, which means you're not signing up, for a full degree program. There's something really niche, something really specific that you want to learn. In this case, it is connected to an actual software, which I think is a great way to really learn that project-based learning and working on labs and working with projects and trying to, solve real problems in order to learn is one of the best ways to learn. My background is in learning design and technology. I got my PhD from Penn State, really learning about effective online programs and how do people learn best. Before that, I worked in middle schools. I got my master's in education from Johns Hopkins. And before that, I was at Penn State. So I spent a lot of time in higher education. And I think one of the best things that higher ed is doing right now is partnering with really strong curriculum designers, which Pathstream is. And we're partnering up to offer really strong instructors and subject matter experts to work with you guys, work with students who are looking for specific skill sets, and these non-credit options, these certificate options are the future of education because you know what you want to learn and you know what softwares you want to learn it on, and we're trying to get you that real-time learning with this program. So I have a lot more to say. I also teach the Tableau data analytics class. So if you're interested in that, I'll probably be doing the overview for that one, which I'll talk a little bit more about the curriculum and software and why we love it. But yeah, that's me. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you so much. And really appreciate all of your expertise and highlighting your perspective being in higher education long-term, talking about what is, you've seen over the long-term, what higher education is, and mentioning that really this is something that is part of the future of, education going forward is
absolutely
an opportunity. Yeah. So just a brief introduction to myself. I started out in higher education as well, a little bit different. I started out in physics. I was a professor and a researcher, and I got very interested in best practices in education and thinking about how to best implement educational technology in teaching and learning. So went back to school and got a degree in educational technology and had the opportunity to build massive online courses for MIT, and then was recruited to come work for Microsoft for a while on their STEM skills and employability team. So that really gave me a lot of perspective on what companies like Microsoft and sort of employers globally are looking for in terms of digital skills and how we afford students those digital skills. And that brings me to my current tenure on the learning design team at Pathstream, where I bring all of that experience to bear on putting these on building. I spend a lot of time at Pathstream thinking about how do we take best practices to build and implement and execute these online learning experiences that are meant to be really effective and efficient in delivering meaningful experiences for folks to upskill in these really important digital skills certificates, which we will talk about today. So to talk about this partnership, I wanted to hand that back over to you, Lindsay.
Absolutely. So as I said, I think higher education is finally moving towards allowing people to buy singles instead of buying albums, you know, just picking out really specific pieces of information. And Pathstream has done a really great job setting up the curriculum and the learning platform in order to help facilitate the learning of these really specific skills. And it's one of the best that I've seen. I think they do a really good job with scaffolding, which just means an I do, we do, you do, meaning that we're going to show you how it's done. We're going to do a practice problem together, and then we're hopefully giving you enough supports to do it on your own. And that is from just building blocks of education from the very first chapter all the way through the 8 weeks, the 16 weeks, you know, however long the program is, each course is, it really just does a good job of setting learners up for success because there's so many opportunities to practice, a lot of checks for understanding. And it's just a really well-designed curriculum. And given that the curriculum is so strong, I think it's a really great partnership because we have really strong instructors who have a lot going on because they're subject matter experts. You know, they might be also working in the industry themselves, but they have a lot of expertise and they have a passion for learning, and they're really able to just focus on giving you feedback. And I think one of the biggest differentiators between our program and other online learning you'll see out there, like other programs where you can kind of just do it on your own, or just like a computer-based system where you're not interacting with an instructor or you're not interacting with other students, you're getting feedback. And our professors have enough time to really make sure that they're giving you feedback on your projects, figuring out where you might have gone wrong. We have weekly office hours. We have optional live lectures if you want to attend those as well. We understand that you may be a working professional, or you have, you know, a family, or you have other things going on. So it's a very flexible program, but it's also one that you'll get that individualized attention if you seek it, which is not the case with a lot of other online programs out there right now, where this is very much a hybrid of, if you want individualized attention, you want to meet with an instructor, meet with your students in your Slack community and talk to them weekly, you can. If you have a lot going on that week and next week you're going to be more engaged, you have the flexibility and the option to engage at the level that you want. Or if you just, you know, I just want to be on the computer, I want to do my problems, and if I have a problem, I'll reach out, that's also absolutely okay. You know, every learner is different, but I think that we have a really good partnership between Pathstream and NYU in providing you the best of both of those worlds. And, you know, the Pathstream people are just awesome to work with too. So it's a good partnership, and we think it's a really valuable program.
Just wanting to echo everything you said, and to also add on that we get a lot of feedback from students about all the things that you're mentioning around the flexibility and the support from instructors and having that Slack, community. And so it's everything you're saying is verified by what we hear from students, and what are the sort of major selling points of this partnership in our program.
Awesome.
So just to level set, you're on this webinar today, so likely you understand this, that, you know, demand for digital skills is growing. You're here now thinking about your options around upskilling, so you understand this. The good news about these jobs is that they're increasingly requiring, you know, software skills, and they're more digitally intensive, but they're the fastest growing segment. So they offer greater opportunity for career advancement, and they're better paying than, you know, non-digital roles. So as part of, you know, the overarching program, the overarching model that we've developed, we've really done the market research to identify areas of significance, like what skills are employers really looking for. And we've got 4 certificates that we've identified: huge opportunity, huge growth, and the ability for folks to really meaningfully upskill through our online platform. So that's Facebook Digital Marketing, Salesforce Administrator Career Certificate, the Asana Project Management Certificate, and finally that Tableau Data Analytics Certificate. And maybe I'll hand this over to you, Lindsay, to talk about, you know, the learning platform, and because you are so in it as an instructor day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of tool-based learning, that means that, you know, we're not just learning this in a vacuum. We're not just learning the philosophy of it, or like, let's just learn some vocabulary words, or general trends in the industry. Like, you're learning hands-on with a specific tool, and we're making sure that you know how to use that tool when you're done with the program. We're giving you different scenarios, different situations, different data, different tasks, different prompts to actually get you to work in that software as if a coworker was asking you for, or a manager was asking you to do a certain task or to, help us solve a certain problem. You're getting those real world examples in the program, and you have to use the tools in order to answer these questions. So we're making sure you know how to use it. It's not just you're reading a manual about how to do something, you're actually using the tool to do it, which is the best way to learn. And when we say hands-on, I mean, you're actually manipulating data, you're actually creating different projects and tasks. You are the one in the driver's seat, and we want to see what you are able to develop from using the tools. You'll have some flexibility and be able to be creative with the projects that we ask you to do, but we're also going to ask you to answer very specific questions to make sure that you're able to use the software in the right way. So the types of assessments that we do to make sure that you're learning is a mix of quizzes, which are, really specific. Do you know this term? Do you know what this tool is within the program? Do you know what this button does? But then also you have open-ended projects where we're asking you to do a task and you need to create something. And we're, as the instructors, evaluating that based on a rubric to make sure that you understand what's going on. And it's not a multiple choice. It's very much open-ended and very much project-based. And you have to show us what you can do with these tools. Again, you're going to get personalized feedback from us. We're going to make sure that if you're turning something in, we're saying, you're doing a good job, or, this is where an area of improvement, this is something I would like to see, or you missed the mark. Actually, it should have been something that you did over here and you did it over there. So we're going to give you feedback so that you know next time how to fix something if you did it wrong, or if you're on the right track. You're going to continue to get feedback from us so that you're doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And you and I both know project-based learning is pretty much the
way to go.
Yeah. So it's a great piece of the platform, of the model that we employ. Just the overview, we've already identified that these tracks are really preparing you for a growing career area that we have verified doing market research, looking at what jobs and opportunities are out there. You are going to earn a certificate from the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. So this is a branded verification. You can put it on your resume and your LinkedIn profile. It's a proof point to your current and future employers about the skills that you have achieved, and that, it's verified by an important institution. In addition, you'll receive career services. So that's another part of the program that we hear a lot of positive feedback from students about. We have a career services team that supports you in those career goals, because that is the point, that you really want to achieve this certificate and you want to be thinking about, how is this going to support me in whatever goals I have. Throughout the entire certificate, you can be sure that you're receiving or you're partaking of career aligned curriculum. And I can speak to that being on the learning design team, that we are constantly evaluating and upgrading, making sure that content is career aligned and up to date for you. Weekly, you will receive a newsletter with targeted job opportunities in your inbox, and that's sort of throughout your certificate. But during that final course, when you're thinking about, okay, I'm getting close to finishing, what are my goals? How am I going to achieve those goals? We have a team that will work with you on things like a resume and a LinkedIn profile review, career coaching. You can see there's a whole list of items. And again, we do receive really good positive feedback from students that work with our career services team that are able to take that certificate and, upgrade in their current job, maybe get a promotion, look for a different job. There are all kinds of options available. The overview of the programs here, as we mentioned, we've got 4 certificates we'll be talking about. And really what I want to highlight on this slide is you are, and to echo, Lindsay, what you've already mentioned, you are not receiving just theoretical sort of textbook information, things that you're going to memorize facts. You are applying these things in service of, producing authentic work. So for instance, if we look at the Tableau data analytics certificate, you're going to cover data synthesis. That's sort of like the overarching umbrella. You will be able to manage data, but you're going to do it with spreadsheets, with MySQL, with Tableau. These are the tools that you're going to utilize to, again, produce artifacts, produce projects, add things to your work portfolio, things that would be authentic to the work of a data analyst. And so it's really very much applied. Also, if you don't know about spreadsheets or SQL or Tableau, that's okay. We don't presume any prior knowledge there. In terms of the details, 3 courses, as we mentioned, 18 to 27 weeks total. That 27 weeks would be for the data track. We do provide you a schedule to stay on track to complete by the end of the program, but it is flexibly paced. And of course, we've already talked about the instructor support piece. And maybe I'll just pause and Lindsay, if you wanted to add, speaking from an instructor point of view, kind of the structure here.
Yeah, absolutely. So your instructors are your, guides throughout the learning process. You have 3 different courses, and throughout we have optional live session each course that if you want to, just pop in and get an overview about what we're about to do, or what, really dive in on project, you can come to that. We have our weekly office hours. So if you have really specific questions, if you're working on a lab or you're working on a project and you're not really sure how to attack it, or you're attacking it, but it's just not working, you can meet individually with us for that. But then again, we're really grading assignments. We're giving you feedback. We're communicating with you about what you're doing well or what still needs to be worked on. And then upon successful completion and you're getting high enough grades on all those assignments, we issue you a certificate at the end of the program.
So it's great. We love being able to do the webinar and come to you and bring you all this information, but also great that we can present some testimonials, because it's nice to be able to hear from folks who, just like you, are thinking about this and signed up for the program. These are some of their reflections. I think that this is, this confirms what we have been describing in a lot of ways, which is, the instructions were easy to understand. The courses are nothing like a textbook. You can dive deep into each lesson and test your knowledge. Pathstream breaks down the information, makes it easier to understand, trying to make the online learning it's meant to be enjoyable. It's meant to be effective and efficient. And really does help you. I will say that last quote is my favorite: the value of the information, how to implement it step by step. There's no fat, it's all meat. And that's by design. We have a team that really thinks about how can we, implement best practices in learning and in online learning to make this the best experience possible, most effective and efficient. So we will do just a quick overview of each certificate before we jump into a platform demo. And so now let's go ahead and start with the Tableau Data Analytics certificate. And I'll just really briefly mention, again, we have done market research to verify that each of these career paths, there's a lot of motivation for the certificate paths we have picked. There are, 1 million job postings, 30% growth in jobs requiring these skills in the next decade. And if you were to go to Indeed.com or LinkedIn and do a keyword search on data, you would see lots of jobs that aren't necessarily a data analyst or a business analyst, which, by the way, this would prepare you for those kinds of jobs. But lots of jobs outside of that are looking for data-driven decision-making. Like, increasingly, as we produce more data is trickling into all kinds of jobs that aren't necessarily just exclusively focused on data. So, this certificate is really going to prepare you for those data careers, but also just help you with your analytics skill set in your current job, maybe get a promotion, and also set you up for the Tableau Desktop Specialist exam. That's another thing that we wanted to build in to this certificate. Another proof point, in addition to your certificate, that shows you current and future employers, validates your skills. So I'll hand it over to you, Lindsay, if you could describe the courses that go into the certificate.
Yeah, absolutely. So 3-course structure. We start with really basic fundamentals, getting you introduced to Google Sheets, cleaning data, synthesizing data, understanding, even if you've had a lot of experience in Excel or Google Sheets, there might be commands or different formulas that you just want to brush up on or remember, or just things that you may have never used that you do manually that you didn't know there was a workaround for that'll help you work more efficiently. If you've never used Google Sheets, never used Excel, we're starting from block one and just really getting you up to speed on what the data cleaning process looks like, how to create very simple and elegant data visualizations within Google Sheets, charts, and we start that foundational part of, before we get into Tableau and data visualizations, let's just make sure that we understand what the data is telling us, what's the most appropriate type of visualization to use on a basic level before we start getting into really fancy and beautiful displays that can be done in Tableau. From there, we go over to SQL. If you've never used SQL before, which sometimes is the case for my students, they've done a little bit of data, but now they're seeing job postings where they want you to have that MySQL, that MySQL that you're seeing around. It's essentially how to talk to a database. You're learning a new language. Computers are storing thousands upon thousands of rows of information and columns of information, and those aren't just held in Excel sheets. Those are held within these databases, and we are learning the language to tell the computer about how to pull that information out. So if we want to know the customer name, the customer address, and the email address, we can tell the computer these are only the rows that I want you to return, but I only want you to return those rows from the people in the zip code, because you just can't pull that type of information out from a company's server. Like, it's just too much information. So we need to know how to talk to the computer to be able to pull out the exact information that we need in order to answer the right questions. That's SQL. And then we move from SQL over to Tableau, where we're really getting hands-on training using the Tableau software. If you've never used it before, it's like the new aged, I don't know. It's a really cool platform in order to make really pretty visualizations using the same data that you may have used in Excel or used in Google Sheets. And you're just bumping up what you can do with your data to a higher level. Just in terms of the visualizations, it's not just a bar chart. It's not just a scatter plot. We're looking at maps. We're looking at heat, cool. Like, it's just on another level. If you haven't just Googled Tableau, go check out some of the visualizations that you're able to do. And we really walk you from how to import your data into Tableau all the way up to how to make a heat map, and just a lot of the different cool things that you can do. And we give you enough meat that you can go off and run it and do your own thing. That at, the fourth week within the Tableau third course, you could make your own chart. You could make your own visualization in the real world outside of what you're doing for class, because you're going to be able to pick it up that quickly. So really comprehensive, learning a little bit of everything, but making sure that you're talking the same language as data analysts wherever you go.
Thank you so much for kind of breaking all of that down in a good amount of detail. And also keep in mind for folks on the webinar that we are going to do a platform demo, and we're going to look at course one. So if you're wondering kind of what this looks like and feels like, we're going to take a look at business analytics fundamentals in the platform.
Awesome.
So moving on to the Salesforce Administrator Career Certificate. First, before we kind of cover the industry outlook and the career data, just to talk about what a Salesforce admin is. You may or may not have heard of Salesforce. It is a CRM, so basically customer relationship management platform. And any business that deals with customers has data that comes from dealing with those customer relationships. And so it's super important that businesses are able to manage this data efficiently for the sake of keeping those customer relationships healthy, growing profits, managing the business. And so as a Salesforce admin, you're managing the platform that manages all the customer data. So you can imagine it's an important job. In terms of, where this skill set is applicable, think about any business that has customers, and they will need a CRM. And so Salesforce admins are needed across industries and functions. Basically, any industry you can think of, any business that has customers is going to have to manage that data. And so this is applicable across industries and functions. To go back to the outlook, we're talking about millions of job postings and robust growth in skills, or robust growth in jobs requiring these skills. And it's not a bad skill set to have for folks that aren't, maybe or maybe not. You want to become a Salesforce admin. Maybe you're a sales representative already, and this is something that you can sort of add on to your skill set, that it's just going to supercharge your current job. Maybe you get a promotion, or you might want to pivot into a new job, but suffice it to say that it's so universally used. In fact, Salesforce considers their main competitor Microsoft. So think about how many businesses use Microsoft. It's globally used, and it's only increasing. In addition to your certificate, this is going to set you up for the Salesforce, the Certified Salesforce Administrator exam offered by Trailhead. And so that's potentially another avenue, another proof point you can add to your resume, of your skills, your proficiency to current and future employers. So in terms of the 3 courses here, you're going to start with the basics. We assume no knowledge. You show up day one, you may or may not have heard of Salesforce. You may have not worked with Salesforce before, and that's okay. We're going to take you from 0 to using Salesforce in that first course. It's really that first course about becoming proficient as a user. So you'll be able to manage accounts and opportunities, sort of manage data within Salesforce and feel comfortable. By the end, you'll be able to build reports, charts, and dashboards. So again, these are authentic, items that you would authentic artifacts of work that you do as a Salesforce admin, and you're going to have the opportunity to do those things. The second course, if the first course is introducing you to Salesforce and becoming kind of a proficient user, the second course is really introducing you to what it means to be an admin. So now you're not just using Salesforce, you're going to be understanding how to configure it on the back end. So, you're going to be able to really design and build custom apps. You're going to be able to configure Salesforce versus just using it, right? So that's going to take your experience up another notch. And then finally, that third course is advanced topics. So you're going to extend your knowledge even further. By the end of that course, not only are you going to use it proficiently and be understand what it is to configure it and really be an admin, but you're going to be able to, be able to do advanced reporting and use analytical tools to help drive business decisions. You're going to be able to use it as, kind of a super user, not just sort of passive where they're telling you what to do, but rather you're using it as a tool to help inform the business. So that's our advanced topics course. Next, we'll talk about the Asana project management certificate. And, when I think about project management, I think about how there's basically no job that wouldn't benefit from project management skills. So
absolutely. Or absolutely. Marriage or household or
good point, Lindsay. I'm sort of super soaked in career things, but we have lives outside of jobs too. And I can testify to the fact that I could use some more project management skills in my day-to-day life. So this is, as we say, a no regret skill set. You might want to dip into jobs that are specifically, maybe you want to be a project manager or a project coordinator, but this is something that's going to help you in your job no matter what. You might pursue a promotion, and also you will be prepared for the CAPM exam, Certified Associate in Project Management exam, offered by the Project Management Institute, which is globally recognized. So another proof point of your skills on your resume. So much as the sort of standard pattern, we want to start you out on that first course with just the foundations of project management. And right away, you're going to basically be developing, the authentic work. You're going to be doing the work that a project manager does. You're going to prepare a project charter. You're going to make a stakeholder register. You're going to create a scope statement. So all of these things, if you start out with no knowledge of project management, you're going to come out the end of the first course with some things in hand to add to your portfolio as evidence of real work that you would do as a project manager. That second course is stepping up that knowledge. It's more of a tool-based course in the sense that now you're going to dip into Asana. So you're Asana being a widely recognized project management, software tool. And you're going to create a schedule, create a project budget, create a communication plan. So again, all these things that are now you're using the tools and you're creating authentic deliverables to the work of a project manager. Finally, that third course, you're going to get into risk management, which is so important for project management that really we've carved out an entire course for you to kind of focus on. Now you understand project management. Now let's layer on kind of, what risk management means in the context of project management. Finally, getting into that Facebook digital marketing certificate. My eye always goes to on this slide, digital skills, marketing skills are essential. Over half of marketing expenditure in the US goes to digital marketing. And that makes sense if you think about how much we live our lives online today. It's a super important, it's a significant job. There's a lot of work in this area because every time you see a website or maybe you see a social media post, there are, companies, organizations that need great people who are thinking about how to connect with customers and how to build their brand. So this is like a huge growth area. Maybe you want to become a digital marketing coordinator or a marketing specialist. This is going to set you up for that. But I will say, even in my own job on the learning design team, I work with our digital marketing team. And so it is any information that I have about digital marketing is helpful because then we can work together even better. So it's, a skill set that is complementary to lots of jobs.
Absolutely.
In terms of our courses here, we're going to start you off with the foundations. And basically what you're seeing is like a list of, a SWOT analysis, value propositions, market segmentation, all these things you're learning are in service of building a campaign. So you're going to build a campaign and you're going to do it as a digital marketer would do. That second course, marketing analytics, performance optimization. Now you're going to assess how that went. How good was it? And this is where you're going to get into interpreting data with Google Sheets. You're going to be able to, visualize your findings. You're going to examine how it went, and you're going to basically present that out, interpreting data. And if you don't know what A/B testing is, or you don't know what a KPI, key performance indicator is, that's okay. You're going to learn, and you're going to learn it in service of actually assessing a campaign. So again, this like real world learning where you're doing things that are authentic to the job. And so that makes it sort of sticky and very valuable for when you want to go out in the world and actually add this to your in your skill set in your job or your future job if you change jobs. That third course, think about, social media and how enormous that is. We've devoted an entire course to social media marketing, right? And this is where, again, that like real world tool-based learning comes into play. You're going to learn how to use Facebook Audience Insight tool. And you're really going to be able to create, all the trappings of a social media campaign. So you would be prepared to dip into that once you finished the certificate. So going into our platform
demo. I feel like it should be like, in the middle of the segment, there's like a song lead in, platform demo.
I love that suggestion. And next time
I'm happy to do it manually. It's okay.
So as I mentioned, we're going to dip into our business analytics fundamentals course. And some of the features I just want to show you, on your first day, you get into the platform. This is what it's going to look like. You get a welcome. So before we do anything, how to use Pathstream, you're going to get an overview. So we're just going to talk very high level. What is this course about? What's it for? And we're going to give you the final project details. So you can be thinking while you're, parsing through the content, while you're making progress. It's not a surprise. The project parts are going to come up, and we've already briefed you about the overarching project at the very beginning of the course. So this is the point. we're going to get into that second section that's just an introduction. So like a warm introduction. Maybe you don't know anything about data. We're going to talk all about data. We're going to talk about careers in business and data analytics, because that is part of why you are pursuing the certificate. We're going to talk about analytics. So if you don't know anything, this is really just sort of getting you ready to jump into more sort of higher level. You're going to get in. We're not going to introduce tools until a little bit later. We're telling you about data, we're telling you about analytics, and then we're going to jump into more of the hands-on work. Here in that third section, we're talking about framing a business problem. And that framing of a business problem is setting up the project. You're going to analyze data in service of that project. And what I wanted to do was also to jump into, I want to show you. Yeah, so the lesson I'm pulling is this formulas and function lesson. And what you'll see is that we have, we have a time estimate, so you can use that. People vary, but at least we want to give you some idea so you can make a plan around how long this lesson will take. And this little beaker is a signal that you're going to get a lab in that lesson. So I'm going to dip into that formulas and functions lesson. And maybe I'll start from the top. And if Lindsay, if you want to talk through this a little bit, I'll just kind of scroll.
Yeah, absolutely. So your last page was kind of like your table of contents, and now we've dived into this chapter of the book is a kind of a way that I think about it. And now we're in this second lesson or the second chapter. And as you scroll through, this is kind of a new age textbook, but way better, where there are gifts included in the textbook. There's media, there are different YouTube lessons in here that if we really just want to dive in on something specific, we'll show you exactly what we're talking about. The checks for understanding are one of my favorites, where if you get something wrong, you get immediate feedback. And that's just going over what we learned within the last couple of paragraphs, just to make sure you're understanding what we're talking about, making sure you understood what to get from that last video. Lots of really good, just foundational vocabulary things for you there. Examples, whatever we're highlighting, we're telling you, we're showing you, you have different just helpful tools and tricks that you're going to need before you go into the lab. The cheat sheets are at the end of each section, where you can kind of just go in, make sure all that you learned. If you're not taking notes, we have pretty much taken the notes for you, and it's a summary of everything. These gifts are my favorite, where we're telling you, this is the average formula, how it works, but then I'm showing you in practice, this is exactly what you would be doing with your mouse if you were in the system. And after we talked about it, after we showed you how to do it, what's going to happen at the bottom here is we're going to get into a lab, and we're actually going to do it together. So we're still going to walk through it, and you're still going to have some complementary instructions, but we're assuming that you've done everything in that lesson, you've read everything, we're on the same page, we've done the check for understanding, now we're ready to launch this lab. Over on the left-hand side, you're going to have some more just helpful information, setting up the context of what this data is telling us, and then it's going to go straight into your tasks. And they're going to ask you very specifically, use this function to find this number, do this to find this. There are gifts throughout the lab. So as we go through step 2 through 4, you'll have different instructions. You can read step 1, step 2, and then if you know what you're doing, you can just go for it. If you're not quite sure what they're asking, you can click on this GIF and click show me how, and it'll do an actual demonstration if you weren't sure for what you were supposed to do. If I know what I'm doing, I don't need to check my work, you can kind of go through these. At the very end, they'll give you the exemplar to say, let's double check that what you did matches ours, and you can check your work that way. The model solution, there it is, just to make sure that what you have matches what they have. But then there are also checks for understandings within the labs. So that's where I was saying there's the I do, which was the kind of textbook portion. The we do is this lab where you're putting it in action. You are the one manipulating everything on the right side of the screen. That is a real spreadsheet that we're expecting you to put formulas in, and you could do anything that you wanted in there. It's live. It's not a fake spreadsheet. All of the calculations that you do in there, you're typing in for yourself. And then we're making sure that you're doing the right formulas and you're understanding what we're asking you, because we're going to show you the exemplar. We're going to have those examples for you in there. And that's the we do portion. So this is a lab. And then after this, and you'll go into another section, you might have a quiz that's going to bring in some of these elements. So it'll say, what is column C showing us here? Or what formula should you be using in column D? So you might have a graded quiz that you're doing. And then from there, after you do maybe 5 or 6 labs, you might have a project. And that project one is a culmination of the different labs that you've done, the different skills and the different things that we have taught you throughout that lesson. And we're bringing that all together into the project. Show us what you've learned up to this point. And then we repeat it again for the different projects throughout the course.
Absolutely. So just consistent with what you mentioned getting into the project. So I grabbed the project introduction for part 2. And so this isn't even the project. This is just setting you up for,
right.
We want you to be comfortable before you even open the project, that you're very well aware of what is coming. We even put in a knowledge check. This is setting you up. So that's what it looks like, just the introduction of the project. And then you're going to dip into the project. Here, we give you the overview. And
yep. And these might be prompts from a manager saying, this is exactly what I want. It's going to tell you how to save your work, how to put your answers in the right place so your instructors know where to find it. And then once you're in the actual project, what's nice is it's set up very similar to the lab. So it's not an unfamiliar setting for you at all. It's just the prompts over on those left-hand sides. You're not going to have GIFs. You're not going to have show me how. You're not going to have show me the model answer, because at this point you should be providing the model answer. This is what you submit. Whenever you hit submit at the very end, the instructor is using the same rubric that you have down on the bottom left-hand side that you can see to see how are we grading. The instructor's using that rubric, looking at your work, looking at the different tabs at the bottom of all of the work that you did. And we're looking to see how much of a level of understanding do you have? Are you hitting the mark? Are you still emerging? Is there something that you're just not understanding? We're able to see that you're not understanding based on your responses. And that's the best part of learning, right? The feedback, making sure that you are at the spot where you should be at this point in time. So it's really a checkpoint.